paper? Raise your hands. Okay, I guess everybody is saying paper. I guess congratulations. Today, the book we're talking about is Ego is the Enemy. So, quick question. How many of us have actually read the book?
All of it?
Or even just started? Okay. Well, many of us did. But anyways, regardless of whether you've read the book or not, I'm sure you know what the word ego means. All of us, we've heard of the word ego before. But then I feel like it is very subjective because the way I would interpret ego and the way she would is probably different. So when you hear the word ego, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Somebody thinks that he or she is bigger than the program, or there is no one who can tell them what to do or collect them. They feel like they know everything.
Any other person? Okay.
One word, I can describe it as pride.
Pride. That's a good way to describe it. Any other person?
Oh, it's almost the same. I was about to say it's extreme pride. Yeah.
Sorry. Who else wants to go?
One word. I think overconfidence.
Overconfidence, pride, when you think you're bigger than yourself. We all have different ways to describe ego. So at the end of the day, you find that there's one thing in common. Ego is that little voice inside your head that tells you that you're bigger than what you actually are. You're bigger than anything else. So in the book, Ryan Holiday is trying to tell us that ego is an enemy of growth, progress, and it destroys a lot of relationships. So he describes how ego comes in the 3 stages of our life: aspire, success, and failure. So that is how the book is categorized. It's divided into 3 parts. The first part is aspire, and then success, and then failure. So I'm going to give you an overview of the first part. So basically, the idea is when you're trying, we all know what the word aspire means, right? When you're trying to run for something, you know, when you're trying to achieve when you're trying to achieve something, whether it be a career or maybe like a business, you might be the smartest person in the world, right? You might think, you know what, I'm the smartest person in the world, I can do this, I got this, and nothing can actually stop me. But then, what do you think that is? That is usually ego, because you're not sure whether you can actually do it, you haven't done it just yet, but then there's that little voice inside you that tells you, you know what, you can actually do this. So what the Ryan Holiday says in the book is that when you aspire to do something, ego is the enemy. Because you trick your brain. It's like, oh, I want to start a business. I'll give you an example. Oh, I want to start a business. I want to maybe start a life. His weak spot is, don't tell me I'm wrong. At least tell me it could be better. But then in situations like those, instead of receiving the feedback, instead of receiving positive, there are 2 different types of criticism, right? There's just criticism and then positive. Learn from other people. Be teachable. Be a lifelong student. Whenever somebody tells you something, actually understand that, you know what? I might be the greatest person in the world, but I don't know it all. I don't know it all. I should learn to accept what other people have to say. So that's what the first part of the book says. If you're still becoming, don't act like you have already arrived. So, Precious, please take the floor.
Which was the stage of the first part, right? When we aspire, the idea is to get to the top, right? Success. But then, when we get there, when we get the success, what's next now? What do we do? So, commonly telling examples, we are not going to mention them, give examples, but I think something will live in our brains, right? Commonly telling examples, we have seen people who have fallen from glory, a lot of people. Some bounced back, some failed to bounce back, right? So according to Ryan Holiday, the reason for that is ego, the one that we're talking about. I would give an example, of course, of myself, right? Back in uni, fourth year, I started a liquor store. Yeah? It grew to the point, the perception of me, of people from the campus, literally changed, right? I had, even the place changed. People wanted to be around me, changed as well. So what that basically made me to do is to see myself as what some of the friends used to call me. Most of the friends used to call me, hey, I know G, what, So I wanted to be that. I ended up throwing money almost every weekend we were out, okay? Because I wanted to feel that space, that title that I'd been given, ego. Today, I will tell you what I did with the profits that I made from that. Basically, going out, right? So, and also another example that I had myself is about graduates, right? When we graduate, most of us, actually, the idea is we have made it. That 4 years was hard. But when you make it, the opportunities are enough. They are not out there, out here. There's a lot that you can do. But most of us, we fail to do the things that we know we need to do because, I have a degree, ALB, So me, I did there 5 years. I should be doing this no other way. You see somebody just say, when they will do something and turn their life around. We have seen people who are thriving in careers which they didn't go to college for because of that, right? So what basically happens when you get there, according to what Ryan Holiday is saying, is we stop learning, we stop listening, and we lose our grasp on what matters. That's what happens. You hustle your way through to get there. But when you get there now, you feel like you don't have to be in daily places anymore. When there are places, those places are where you got your money from. Or associate with this kind of people. Because the money that you got from that kind of place is still there. And there's probably more there. If you can still put yourself within those kind of places, you wouldn't see yourself maybe struggling or falling, or politicians. That could be a good example. They change advisors. The people that got them into power, they don't want to talk to them anymore. The gears change. Now they start getting bad advisors, so on and so forth, right? So I think, I also tried to, even though Ryan already narrowed the chapters of part 2 to a single word saying success, I came up also with something myself. Is all these things that are happening narrow down to humility and being humble. I was watching a speech, a graduation address of Strive Masiwa, what he talked about at African Leadership University School of Business graduation. He said a lot of things. You can go check it out. But one of the things he said, in Africa we have big visions. Big visions. But then big visions often require humble beginnings. You have to start from somewhere. When you're starting from somewhere, one thing is obvious. You don't know much. But through the years, that's when you are going to start experience, worth, and everything. You don't start from nothing to somewhere. You have to go to 0, 1, 2, 3, and then you go up. If you don't have what it takes to start from 0, 1, 2, 3, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to do anything. That's just basically it is. If you pretend whatever veil that you have covered is going to open, it opens, then you're going to go back to 0. So in every goal that we try to pursue, I think being humble is a key. So we have said that part 2 has 9 chapters, right? Chapter number 1 from part 2, not article, is always stay a student. There's a quote under that, and it says, every man I meet is my master at some point. And in that, I learn of him. If you can bring yourself down, humility, humbleness, to fit in a space where you are, let's say the Zulu market, right? Whatever, you want to buy it there. For you to be able to know the good things that you need to buy, you need to pick, someone has to tell you, sir, this is good apples, these are not good apples. But if you haven't brought you to a place where this person will say, okay, I can talk to this person, but I don't think they'll be able to talk to you and give you what you need to have. At work, this addresses to bosses as well, CEOs, whatever, entrepreneurs, the people that we work with. These are the most people who give us the best ideas to drive our businesses and our offices and workplaces. So if we can be able to humble ourselves, and actually when you do that, when you humble yourself, it's not like the title of the CEO has changed, or how people are going to address you has changed. It's just there. And when this person is going to talk to you to pitch in whatever the idea they're going to give you, it's not like they'll be talking to you in a way like you're going to feel like zero or one. They're also going to talk in a way that they're talking to their boss. So nothing is going to change. And if we go to, and there's also an example on this of the legendary Mongol warrior Genghis Khan. When he captures people, he still wanted to learn from them. He did trade with a lot of people from the Arabs, whatever. Whenever those people, they have entered his territory to do business, he invite them to his castle and try to learn from them. That's why we know Genghis Khan today. And another thing is also, our next chapter is don't tell yourself a story. Also, this thing is asking us to be humble, to bring ourselves down. When we have achieved at something, let's avoid telling ourselves narratives that we are unique, we are geniuses. Crafting our own narratives leads to arrogance. This is what happens when you prematurely credit yourself and you start to think that your rapid achievements say about you and began, this is where my emphasis was, and begin to slacken the effort and the efforts that initially fueled them. What fueled you? The hunger that made you get there is what's going to keep you speed there still. If you forget that and say, maybe I'm here because I'm unique or what, you're going to find yourself falling from glory. What is important is to do what you just have to do. Basically that. And our next chapter is what's important to you, chapter number 3. Still, this is circling around being humble, humility as well. Because whatever we need to do is what's important to each and every one of us. It's engineering. Is it important to you? Are you doing that because it's important or because you just want to be somebody? Being an Avon leader. Are you doing that just because you just want to lead people or it's important to you? An entrepreneur, a CEO of Soar to Infinity, do you just want to be seen like you are CEO of something or it's important to you? Because if it's important to you, you are going to do it with the effort that you need to apply. You're not going to cheat any kind of effort because it's important. But if you're doing something which is not important to you, at a certain point you're going to get tired. You're going to slacken, and it's easy to leave things that are not important to you. Right? The next chapter is entitlement, control, and paranoia. These things, they come also if you are not able to humble yourself. You get to a point, and actually this chapter gave us an example of a certain Roman warrior. Yeah, Xerxes? I don't know, forgotten the name. But then this guy, he thought that he was great to a point where when they were crossing a river, something happened. You know, liver is natural. But then he got mad at the liver and he orders his subjects to strike the liver, like punishing it, something which can't even feel any kind of pain. Because he thought he was that kind of person. Paranoia. And Alexander the Great, he also fell from the same problem. He thought that he could do anything literally. And his soldiers ended up saying enough is enough. And they're actually the ones who killed him. So with success, particularly power, comes some of the greatest and most delusions. We lie to ourselves. Number 5, managing yourself. It means that accepting that others might be qualified or specialized in areas in which you are considered yourself competent. Managing yourself here is talking about also the same thing, humility. If you are able to say, okay, if I can apply pressure to this level, you can get this kind of level, but you don't know what the result might be. But you know that this person can do it. And you apply pressure to a certain this level and you say, hey, my friend, can you come here and continue to where I live? You have managed the effort that you can apply to something. That doesn't mean that you weren't going to be able to do what was supposed to be done. No. But then you knew what needed to be done. There was an example of an army general that was given. The role was him to give out a plan about, it was a certain attack in France about attacking the German soldiers, right? He was at a position to roll out a plan, but he said that, okay, let me not do it. Let this guy do it. He gave it to someone else. What happened? They ended up winning the war in a good way. So even though he managed his effort and gave it to somebody else, they won. It didn't hurt. So if we are able to manage it ourselves, I think the benefits are essential. Another chapter is beware of the disease of me. When you have achieved something and you feel like you nailed in the name. There was an example of they get to a point of calculating their own importance. So now, when you are calculating your own importance, now the problem is, if it was a team, everybody start thinking, good, I was part of it. There is something bigger. If it's a defender, it's just saying, if I wasn't defending well this semester, this team, this match, we wouldn't have won. So everybody now, you start collecting effort that got you there. That leads to downfall. Number 7 is meditate on the immensity. Same thing. This is talking about the idea of us human beings. When you see yourself, just see yourself as someone small in something big that is happening. And if you can see that, you'll be able to appreciate the universe more and play your part. Maintain your sobriety. It's talking about same things. This is not a sobriety about drugs or whatever, but the obsession about your image, treating people beneath you with contempt. Reading face start traveling, just wanting to be that kind of a person, right? Then this one I gave an example of Chancellor Merkel. If we know Chancellor Merkel, then we know that she won 3 times, right? 3, just like that, just because of how she carried herself. So in the last chapter is for what comes next, ego is enemy. So success. If you're not able to humble yourself, humility, we have seen what is going to happen. So this is basically what part 2 was talking about. So I'm going to leave part 2 to you.
Let's give him a hand, please. Damvar. The first part was ego is also the enemy. Remember, we have 3 parts, right? Aspire, success, and then failure. So now let's look at failure. Karen will present on this part of the book.
But before I start, I want you to know how many of us go to the final chapters. Raise hands. Okay. Yeah, I thought as much. Huh? Yeah, I thought as much. All right, so as Wesley and Precious started, aspiring and then success, and then now we're at failure. So Ryan Holiday says that for whatever failure comes next, failure, adversity, ego is the enemy. All right, so I think the main point in the chapters at the last of the book is that failure is inevitable. All right, and also before I think go on, for those that didn't spend so much time in the book, I feel that it's a very important book. Personally, after this book, I'm going to take a break up until I keep digesting this book, okay? Yes, because for me, I think it's a book that if I grasp so many things from it, it's going to help me very much. That was personally what I thought, right? Yeah, so, yeah, the first part of part 3, starts off with a story of Katharine Graham, all right? So this story is about things going right up until they didn't, all right? This is a person that grew up in luxury. The dad was a finance genius, married someone, and she inherited a company from her dad, right? Which she trusted the husband to run. And then the husband things started changing. He started abusing, drugs, doing all sorts of things, and then he had a mental breakdown, in short. So she tried to nurse him back to life, like proper, health, but he killed himself in another room when she was napping, all right? So this itself is considered, in her story, right? It's considered as failure, adversity. Where even Ryan Holiday points out that failure and adversity are relative. I mean, what I can consider as being something like my down moment, someone go like, but you still have this, but you're still coming from this, but you still have A, B, C, D. But for me, it could be that that's something that I didn't picture my life bringing in my rod, So I think from the whole story of Katharine Graham, what stands out is that she is in her 40s, I think, 3 kids, has never run a company before. She has no idea what to do. She had so many choices. She could have sold the thing, but she spent 2 decades, 20 years, with other things as well, not just what happened. She faces other things. She's sued. People are campaigning against her. People are saying, no, poor Graham killed the wrong Graham. He should have killed you, because she goes through a lot of things. But anyway, the whole point is she didn't let her ego come between her and whatever, She knew that she had a legacy to protect, and she kept at it. All right, so there are 6 chapters, I think, in the 3rd part of the book. The first chapter is about a lifetime and dead time. I think most of the chapters I find them very practical, because with the a lifetime and dead time, basically it's talking about how when we face setbacks, right, you're left with time. Like, okay, you went for an interview and you're expecting that could end it, I think, and you have my connections, my card way, or I got my plan. Could have been some get out mangoji. This and I take it. And when things go wrong, you spend time stalking, whatever that may look for you. It can look like distractions, so it can look like you're going out a lot. It could look like you're just in your bed. It could look like you're just watching movies. Whatever you can choose to conceal your down moments with, But then Ryan Holiday points out how in these moments, that's when we can choose, right? Is this going to be dead time or a lifetime for me? You can spend that time learning the things that you have been waiting to learn, like working on things that you have been waiting to, do. And I think this is very practical, because personally, like, how I thought life was going to go after uni is not how it's going at all, And I'm like, okay, I think maybe life is just harsh. But I'm like, no. You need to adapt to the world, and however that looks like for you, you don't hide out and like convince yourself, like whatever skills you can be learning in the interim while you're waiting for the things that you actually want to happen, you can use that as a lifetime. Yeah. So the story that he gives as an example is about Malcolm X. So a lot of people know him as Malcolm X, but apparently he had another name before prison. Okay, I don't even remember what the name was, but after he went to prison, he read a lot. He read so many books, and he came out full of knowledge and a different person. That's how, just an example, like a huge example of how dead time can be used to further ourselves. Yeah, so at whatever point in our lives we may be, I think it's good to like take a look back when you face setbacks and everything of how you can use whatever life has handed you as an opportunity to teach yourself and learn. And then the second chapter is about the effort is enough, okay? So with the effort is enough, it means that the book is talking about how true satisfaction from work should come from the work itself and not from what other people are saying, right? I know that sometimes we always at least want people to recognize what we're doing. You know, we want people to recognize the impact and whatever. But I think what even stood out when I was reading the book is that sometimes you can be doing very meaningful things, but even the people closest to you they want to take that as very important. You know, you might achieve something and you expect maybe your parents or your sister or your brother to go like, hey, you know, but you go like, the reaction is just very like, okay, all that work for this. So an example that's even given in the book is about this person who wrote a book, you know, and he kept going to publishing entities to publish this book, but they kept rejecting it. Like, you know, an award. So that just says that even when we're feeling like we're not getting the like validation, you know, or recognition from the things that we're doing, that we think we're having an impact, we should be able to tell ourselves that the effort that we're putting in the work is enough, all right? We don't have to like rely on likes and everything from people. We need to know that what we're doing is enough, all right? I think even things like this, being here, like for us, this is something that I look forward to like every month, all right? So what PK and Doreen started, like it's a great thing, you know? Doesn't matter where we are right now, where it is right now, but the effort that is put in this is enough. So the third chapter is about Fight Club moments. So apparently here there's a movie about personalities. The other personality, the name, I don't remember the name of the person, but he burnt his own house down just because the other, okay, let me not try to complicate things, okay? But the whole point is, sometimes life will bring us to like the low moments in our lives that we consider good. Okay, this is just, you know, it can be embarrassing moments. It can be just moments that like they're one day, okay, this is the lowest you've ever gotten to, all right? So in these moments we can choose, you know, do we defend ourselves or do we actually like look back from like a perspective of just trying to, you know, look at where we went wrong, all right? That, okay, from this place, what can I learn going forward? And I think this is very practical as well, because sometimes we do find ourselves in moments like that, you know? But most times we can try to defend why things are like that, you know? We try to convince other people and even ourselves and give so many excuses. But the whole point is you should be able to look at your failure and adversities and like also be able to point what your role could have been in whatever life has dealt you with. Sometimes it cannot be that it was your problem. Sometimes it can be that life happens to everybody. But whenever life happens, like you should be able to look at those moments and yeah. The other chapter, chapter 4, was Draw the Line. So on Draw the Line, I think when the book is explaining most of these things, it's not as like straightforward, you know. It can seem as if some of these examples are not very practical, but I think if we can look at the subtle things that we do in life, we see that the book actually points to certain things that we see every day, you know, happening. Yes, it can be seen in people that have management, and when it's even management places, not just the big management, even how we manage our own things that we have, you know, our own businesses and whatever. So it talks about how ego makes us throw good money, time, and pride after bad decisions. Wisdom is knowing when to stop. All right, so sometimes success can start to slip away from our hands for whatever reason that can be. All right, it can mean maybe even you can see, good, I'm about to get fired, you know? You can see, good, this is about to go down, like this business or whatever it is, you know, or your place in something is, and like killing what you love just because you cannot be part of it anymore is very selfish, you know? It's very selfish. So he talks about that when you are in points like this, you need to be able to like just know that, okay, where I am, I need to get back to the aspiration phase, you know? Like I need to get back to the drawing board and remind myself what I wanted in the first place, why I was doing the things that I was doing in the first place, you know? Instead of keeping, because even the example that's given in the book is about a person that was running a company, and when his position was being shaken, right? I think he had mismanaged funds and all these things, because he didn't want to accept that failure and to humble himself in the public. Zinto zalagwiga zandivuda, right? Zinto zalagwiga zandivuda kumaziwa boiga full stop. Chenti sambe manja tinezo izi zandiganika enadani enabitilize kulamulira zinto. But I think I'm not in the best place. It doesn't mean that you're failed as a person. You know, you go back and you go back to the drawing board, you remind yourself what your values are, and you can get back at any point. People can see. It's the same thing with Steve Jobs. He was fired from Apple, but rehired, you know, after some years. So even with the story, this person decides that the best way is to go sell drugs, you know, get drug money to save the company. And like, those are just a series of bad decisions. You know, just trying to cover up one bad thing that is happening, and you're just failing to accept kuti inezi into zarani zalawiga, you know, and I need to step away. Yeah. The other chapter is about maintain your own scoreboard. All right. So this talks about how don't measure yourself by external applause. Keep your own inner scoreboard. So, all right, with this, sometimes we measure our success by trophies, you know, trophies or applause from people and whatever, but you need to be able to like have your own scoreboard, you know. How do you measure that you're doing great? Or how do you measure that you're failed or whatever, you know, that helps you. That has distracted me. But I'm about to be done. I'm sorry. It's fine. So, okay, it says that successful people don't care if they meet other people's standards. They care if they meet their own standards, and their standards are much, much higher. All right, so today we often compare ourselves who has a better job, who has a flashier lifestyle, you know, but inner standards are what should matter the most. All right. And then chapter 6, the last chapter, is about always love. All right. And I think this is also very practical, because most times when we find ourselves with hatred, you know, like people hating on us or whatever is happening, our response is also to, you know, save face. Save face, do not, and then we give back what they're giving. But in this case, it's telling us that ego does feed anger and revenge, but the stronger and braver response is love. You need to let go and move forward. So, failure is inevitable. It will happen to all of us. You know, in the road to success, there's something that we'll always meet: adversity, failure. But when that happens, how do we respond to it? All right. When we're faced with setbacks, do we turn them into dead time, or do we turn them to a lifetime? Do we chase applause, or do we realize that effort itself is enough? When life hits us with a brutal Fight Club moment, do we deny or defend, or do we listen, learn, and let it transform us? Do we keep throwing good money, time, and energy after bad decisions just to protect our pride, or do we have the courage to draw the line? Do we measure ourselves by external scoreboards, trophies, titles, or headlines, or do we quietly keep our own scoreboard, guided by the standards only we know? Yeah, so in short, like I said, failure is unavoidable, but ego is what makes it fatal. So we need to have humility, and that will really help us. Yeah, am I on time?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
Exactly on time. Wow. No, guys, come on. That was well put together. I would need another round of applause. What? I didn't even get to the third part of the book, but right here, I just felt like I was actually reading it. That was so well put together. Thank you, Karen. So what we've gotten from that book is that failure is not final unless you let your ego take over and make you quit, right? Down. I just wanted to encourage everyone to not just listen to whatever was being said here.